This channel kind of got its start, or at least took hold, covering weird obscurities and different bits of militaria, as in arms on the military side, not little pins and badges, like the Walther P5, which ejects from the left side. A brilliant idea that I wish had stuck around, but for some reason doesn't. Over the years, of course, I've turned into reviewing what comes out, but every once in a while I find something neat and different that's super affordable and surplus, like this Star. It says Modello Super on there. It was sold to me as a 9B. I don't know enough, and I quite frankly don't care enough to have the exacts on it. This looks like a 1911, but it's not. The trigger doesn't work like a 1911. And this thing unfortunately wasn't super reliable. A lot of parts in it were worn out, as I was warned when I bought it. And now I've got another Star, the 30M, something that some reports on the internet say were meant to compete with the Brenner 92. We'll explore it together, coming up next on GBGuns. So I bought this from Atlantic Firearms and was very pleased to see it came with the original box, and I even got 2 mags and the cleaning rod. Didn't get the manual though. That's okay, I don't read Spanish all that well, and I hang on to the stickers because sometimes they tell you a little bit about it. Like from Google Translate, I can tell that the acquisition and warranty date on this ended in 03 and 05, which I find to be very interesting. Star was a Spanish handgun maker that went out of business in 97, and these 30Ms were produced, best I can tell, mid-80s through the mid-90s. It's a all-steel, full-size, double-stack 9mm. Got 2 magazines, 15-round mags with the witness windows on the wrong side. Unfortunately, I still don't understand. Please, maybe a European can tell us why European companies like to put the witness windows on this side. I prefer them on that side because I carry them in my belt, bullets forward, so that as I pull up I can index and use that to reload. And so if I'm pulling up like this, I can see the left side of the mag, I can see the back of the mag, I cannot see the right side of the mag. So there must be a different way of handling firearms per Euro manual of arms that has this be the advantage. So in our case we've got that. We also have this little screwdriver tool. It's kind of handy. And a cleaning rod. Get this stuff out of the way and we'll explore this gun. Now, as with all my reviews, the pinned comment will be where I put specs and sources and things on this. I actually don't know all the specs yet. I'll have to research that for the article. One of the things that made me want to pick this up was I thought my single stack Star had potential. It wasn't bad, it's just not reliable enough, and I only got 1 magazine with it. Getting 2 mags with this made a heck of a difference. This being a double stack and having a full-length slide was pretty exciting to me. But honestly, one of the things that got me was its single action, double action, and the safety works in an interesting way. So I'm going to come in, hopefully you can see clearly on the firing pin. When I disengage the safety, the firing pin is protruded. So it can be engaged. You can pull the hammer and hit the firing pin. When you engage the safety, it tucks the firing pin flush. Did not decock the pistol. We can now decock, of course, manually, lowering the hammer, or just pull the hammer, or pull the trigger to drop the hammer. And this means you can safely dry fire this thing all you want without beating up on the firing pin. And I thought that was a pretty cool idea. The trigger on it, by the way, one spec that I heard in an online review, sorry guys, this has to be one of those videos where I repeat what other people said because that's all I can find for research on this, is only 1/10 of an inch of travel, which, if you're familiar with Walthers, is what makes Walther triggers so nice. This single action is nice. Very crisp. The double action, of course, has more weight to it, but is fairly smooth. No defined wall, it's just a pull-through kind of double action. Very interesting concept here, and because of the way the safety works, you could run this cocked and not locked, but safe, and then flip that up before engaging, or you could decock it safety off and run it with the double action first shot. I like having that option. Depending on your school of thought, your level of training, how and when and where you've trained, one method might be preferred over another, but it's not often that you get guns that give you both options like that. And if you're wondering why we don't see guns like this very much anymore, I have a theory, and that is consumerism. People want to buy stuff, people enjoy buying things. It's the American way to live slightly outside of our means, and that means we look for things that are affordable. In order to make things affordable, you can't make expensive products. This all-metal gun with features like that costs a whole lot more to make than squirting a inexpensive frame out of polymer and dropping 30-something parts into it like most modern striker guns are. Since those modern striking guns cost less to make, they can have a lower price on them, they can sell for lower prices, they become the market dominators, and an all-metal or even a hammer-fired gun becomes a bit more expensive, as you can see. Just look at any price listing. And then to have a DASA all-metal hammer-fired gun is quite expensive to make. There are a lot more parts, a lot more fitting, a lot more tolerances to worry about, things like that. So unfortunately, that's why we don't see so many of those anymore. Now let's move on to our standard tabletop. Standard tabletop begins by locking the slide to the rear. This is kind of like a CZ 75 and a high power, which the CZ75 is arguably a continuation of high power design aside from slide riding inside frame. I know that'll start some arguments, but pay attention to the way the action works and you'll see what I mean. Had a baby with a bunch of other guns. It's kind of a borrowing of things, which is from what I've researched what Star did on a lot of stuff. Slide lock to the rear, empty mag in. We'll flip it over. Do we get magazine release or ejection? And we get ejection. It actually kicked it out. It doesn't come all the way out. In fact, it won't even drop free. It kind of sticks in there. I'll grab the other magazine so we can verify if it's not just this magazine or if it's the way the gun was designed. A note on these magazines, and those of you that know your mags may or may not be able to confirm or deny this, but according to the internet, these accept Smith & Wesson 5906 mags. I felt friction at the very end putting that in. Yep, same thing. We get ejection, and then that long floor plate gives us a place to pull the mag from. That could very well be in line with the manual of arms at the time in the country this was made, where retaining magazines was the thing. That's definitely a European thing. Alright, so we'll drop the slide. I'm going to do it gently just because I don't know what kind of health this extractor has. The extractor is external, which I like, and there is a cutout in the barrel in there, so let's just try dropping that. And that action feels pretty good. Alright, starting up front, you can see we've got a flat muzzle. That's right, there's no beveling on there. This is before that became N mode, however it is leaner up front, widening out as it hits the dust cover of the frame. We have a fixed front sight post that has a spot for some white paint. A lot of it is missing, kind of a ramp. That's going to probably present some challenge for me. No rail slots, as that wasn't the thing yet, but we definitely have texturing on the front of the trigger guard and a little bit of a hook for that European style, shooting with the support hand, firing finger up forward like that. No undercut on the trigger guard, you really can't, or it's difficult to do on... Oh, we have a magazine disconnect. That's annoying. Oh, I hate those. With a double action trigger, when it's in double action and the trigger is farther forward, you need that arc for the trigger to swing, so it's really difficult to raise those trigger guards. Underneath here, though, feels pretty good. There's definitely an edge there. The magazine release is a reach for even my large hands, so that's kind of tough. Our checkering on the front strap, or our texturing on the front strap, is the vertical lines. So classic, so wrong. I say that because when you're firing, a gun is not trying to move like this. It's not trying to move left to right, it's trying to move up and down on the muzzle, which means you should have horizontal serrations on the front strap. I say this in so many guns. One of these days, a designer's going to listen to me. We do have, though, a nice little kick at the toe to scoop the hand in. Holds nicely. These grips, they feel like a very hard rubber. They might be a plastic, not sure. We have, of course, no beveling underneath for the magazine insertion. Our serrations on the back strap are vertical. Again, wrong direction, guys. To look at slide to frame fit, plenty of play. I don't know how, whew, lots of play there, but our barrel locks up tightly. I don't know how used this gun is. It's obviously used, has been through some things. We've got 2 dots in the rear and that blade up front. That's going to present some challenge. And of course, this is before red dots were going on anything but competition guns. The roll marks are fairly shallow in it, which is surprising. I mean, the star labeling there is barely visible. GC is on there and 90 on here. Maybe that's when this was made. Hard to tell. That wraps us around. Also, you notice that the contrary to what is in mode now on 1911s for having that takedown pin be tucked in, this sticks out quite a bit. However, that does work for a nice reference point, as long as you don't knock it out of place while shooting. I mean, your finger shouldn't be up there, but interesting bit. Next, we'll field strip this and take a look inside the gun. Now, I've only field stripped this once. I did it just now off camera to make sure there weren't any peculiarities, and there is one slight one on reassembly, but we'll get to it when we get to it. We have some little marks here on the slide and frame, and we're going to want to, of course, after checking that it's clear, slide back to those line up, and then push on our slide release lever from the other side, and it comes out with a little bit of personality. I had this earlier, it didn't want to come straight out. I rotated it and then it came out. I don't know why. There's no nothing specific on the shape of this, but that's how it works. And then push or slide forward and off. This lets us take a look at the inside of the frame. And one thing that was commented, but I didn't see how it was done, and I'm not going to mess with it on mine, is that the fire unit, interesting mobile ejector there, the fire control unit, trigger pack, etc. all comes out as one piece, which supposedly makes these very easy to work on. But you can see this is all turned out of one big piece of steel. That's a lot of machine time, a lot of effort. And there's our kidney bean of the later years Browning type action that we saw in the high power and then in the CZ75. Interesting captured steel rod there. Bring our barrel down and out, and you can see our locking lugs are on the barrel and it locks up inside the slide. Looking inside our slide, you can see this is before drop safeties were a thing. There's no little safety plunger there, but aside from some tooling marks of this maybe being a later year run production, things look pretty good. We'll check for chamber fitment. Our feed ramp here is mildly polished from wear, and I don't think that was polished at all from the factory. I don't see any terrible marks in the barrel. Of course, pistol barrels aren't quite as important as rifles. However, as we've seen with what's for dinner tests over the years, they can have favorite and unfavorite ammo. Got a piece of Liberty Ammunition Civil Defense here that I'll use. It is nickel plated. That helps reduce friction. Also helps with corrosion resistance for a round that I handle a lot. Drop it in there, listen for a plunk. Did. Can we rotate freely? Oh yeah, that is a well-worn chamber. And then looking to see how much is supported, you can see we've got that smiley face underneath there of it not being a fully supported chamber, much like a Glock. So that plus the age of this thing, I would not want to run plus P through it. Now that said, this was meant to be a NATO gun, which meant it was probably developed using NATO ammunition. 124 NATO is 10% higher pressure than SAMI spec American commercial 9mm. American commercial plus P is 10% higher pressure than SAMI spec. So if plus P is the same pressure as NATO, theoretically this should be able to run it. I just would be cautious about doing so. Interesting, you can see there's a little insert here, that purplish color. serving as a barrel bushing. It is definitely a different piece of metal inserted into the slide, and you can see the wear marks on the barrel here of where that has hit over the years. I'm sure that bushing is slightly out of spec by now, but there's not much I can do about it. Star is out of business. Now for reassembly, this is where I came into some hiccups, even though it should be pretty simple. Drop the barrel back in, our guide rod back in, and it just kind of rests there. And you can see we've got a nice clear hole there. That's where our pin needs to go through once it matches up with the window in the frame. Before I do this, let me drop some oil on this. Now, a nice thing about these full-length rail type deals is if you drop oil at the start inside the rail, you know that when you put the slide in, it's going to distribute that oil anywhere it makes contact, and that's where you need oil. I have been criticized many times over the years for how minimally I oil firearms. Let me throw some on the barrel as well. It'll cook off, but might as well. However, I have yet to have problems with it. I don't know if that's the shooting environment that I'm in. I don't know if that's maybe my round counts. I mean, I have gone to classes. I'm just going to throw oil where it's shiny, and then of course on these locking lugs to help them engage, and the edge of the barrel hood. Those are our contact points. That's, I mean, if lube where it gets shiny. That's all it needs. All right, resting this in, we're going to start our slide inside the frame, and I don't know if this is moving out of place or what the deal is. You can see the hole we're looking for is going to be just forward of that mark, and as I come back, you can see that somehow it's already out of position. There's kind of the start, but you can see it's a little out of position. Now this pin is smaller at the tip to kind of help you fish things in, but I don't think we pulled it off that time. Again, it's lined up. Should be about there. And we don't have a straight through path. Let's see if by maneuvering, I just kind of fidgeted with it before until it went through. Right there, things should be able to pass through, but they will not. And from the back side, we can see we've got an obstruction. So I'm going to fidget with this some more off camera, where I can do this looking at the gun versus looking through the camera. Alright, so I pulled back to get through our little kidney bean link on the bottom side of the barrel, and then push the slide forward, and now we've got some alignment there. Of course, we can't push this all the way in until those two are lined up, and now it goes in. Have to put a magazine in to be able to test the trigger, and everything is smooth and nice. Interesting piece. I'm looking forward to the range session with this because it's such a heavy gun and a long slide. It should be really fun to shoot. I hope those sights don't hold me back. Might get some paint in there eventually, but I'm going to run it as it came out of the box because that's the way I do things. And in that range video, you'll see my absolute first shots through this thing. No warm-up, no practice. We'll find out if it works as I try for a piece of steel at 20 plus yards. Then we'll move, we'll do full magazine plus one, see how these old 15 round mags work. If they still do, I hope they do. If not, I may be ordering some 59 series Smith & Wesson mags, since those are rumored to work. Then we'll take it to the What's for Dinner table, see how this 30-plus-year-old gun runs on modern ammunition, over to the spinner for sights and trigger control. The trigger's really nice. This longer barrel should give us plenty of energy on that spinner. I don't know how well the sights are going to do for me. That might be difficult. Hopefully it's a good eye day. Then again over to practical accuracy for 5 shots from 7 yards at a 1 inch square, and give you my concluding thoughts. As always, sources, specs, things like that are in the pinned comment. This is an interesting one. It's fun to find another surplus pistol that is of interest to me. I'm sure some of you guys already own one or have shot one. If you know of any tricks or things to watch out for, or have any lessons learned, please share it with us in the comment section. This one I bought from Atlantic Firearms, but from what I understand, there's a few other sources for them. Thanks for watching.
GBGuns and I do to level. I'm Moises S, LG Brian P, David F, Derek S, Junior Donald H, Fast Eddie, Gary P, George H, Greg K, Joseph T, Marvin T, Peter A, Rich Scott King, Donald 2 and 5, Jenna I, ERB2, Kevin B. Thanks for the tip level. Such Hullet, Alan B, Briscoe County, Joe, Christopher J, David G, David P, Betsy Fallon N, Fear 76, Gort, Python Slew JS, Justin H, Lee H, Michael W, Mrs. Doodle Punk, Ohio Club, Red Sky, Robert E. Summer G, Dr. Johnny, Uncle Muncie. Waha! Keeping things on this level. Daniel D, Adrian H, Brad M, NXP, Gary L, C, Gilby, Gord GPC, 1986, FM, DJ E, Mark S, Michael L, Mike N, C, Kepto Car.